Hello everyone, welcome back to another doll customizing video with me Akin. Before we start, shout out to my coffee members. Roger, Sinbelops, Heather McCormick, Ruby Rouge, Warren G, Start Planting, Mel, Awkward Burb, Invisible Bear, Mel Again, Hanu Maitish, Star with the Emoji, Jasmine, Megasin, and Steffi MC. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, and if you would like to help ensuring the longevity of this channel so I can make more doll customizing videos, the coffee link is in the description down below. Alright, a few months ago, a good friend of mine and fellow doll customizer here on YouTube, Falkity's World, asked me to join a collaboration. The theme is Disney Princess Meet D&D. Pretty self-explanatory, it's a mashup between the two. Now, I've heard of D&D before, I mean, who hasn't, but I don't exactly know what that is. Valia tried to explain it to me and I was like,
I'm nodding like I understand, but I'm not so sure I do.
but you know what I do with things I'm not familiar with? I jump in head first. I looked up D&D and I saw a lot of characters in armor, so I'm gonna run with that. For the princess, I decided to go with Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. She was available to pick, so I picked her. And the kicker is the armor is gonna be pink. I've been wanting to make a pink armor for a while for some reason, and this project seems to be the perfect opportunity to do that. Maybe that's the reason why I picked Aurora, because she got a pink dress. Okay, let's begin the customization. I'll be reusing the body of this Guinevere doll I made a few years ago. I do not like her. I think she's my worst work, so it's time to give her a new life. Let's strip the doll to its bare base. I removed the head and the body didn't get stained after all those years, so that's great. I ditched the head because I don't think I'll repurpose it. I also switched the hands with a pair of black gloved hands because I'll modify them later, and by doing this I got a complete apple white with normal hands. Let's clean the body with some wet wipes. Aurora's face shape is angular and sharp, but her features are soft, so for the head I'm gonna use Venus McFlytrap from Monster High. I got a loose one right here and I think this head fits the criteria best. I think most doll customizers would agree that the Monster High head and Ever After High body hybrid is the superior base. Anyway, let's prep the head starting by cutting the hair as close to the scalp as possible. I put the head in hot water for about a minute to soften the final, so scraping the excess stubbles would be easier. With tweezers, I pull out the excess hair through the neck hole. Check this out, it's like one of those earwax extraction videos. The head is now completely hair-free, then we can erase the factory paint with pure acetone. Here I slice off the pointy tips of the ears to make them look more human, though it doesn't really matter because the ears will get covered. Then I clean the head with wet wipes to make sure there's no trace of acetone. I wrap some masking tape around the base of the neck before reattaching the head. Then I cover the rest of the body with cling wrap, secure it with more masking tape. Now we can start color matching. It's a pretty big jump from green to pale skin tone, so I expect you'll need more layers of paint. Before you apply another layer, make sure the previous layer of paint has dried thoroughly. I think 10 to 15 minutes in between layers should be good. Eight layers look enough, and I think this is one of my better paint jobs. Also, after I applied the last layer of paint, I left it overnight to let it really set. Now we can give the head 3 initial layers of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat to seal the paint and prep the surface. As you can see, the head has become matte and not shiny anymore. As usual, I'm gonna give the face initial blushing with soft pastels. After sealing the initial blushing with another layer of MSC, I blush the eye area some more and make the lips more vibrant, still using soft pastels. Then I map the eyebrows. With a white watercolor pencil, I fill in the eyes. I just follow the molds. Another layer of MSC, I build up the scleras and place the irises with a light blue pencil. With a light brown pencil, I start drawing on the eye lines. Another layer of MSC, I work on the eyes more and introduce other colors for the shading. Ideally, the pigments from the watercolor pencil should really build up on the 5th or 6th layer of MSC because that means the MSC is applied properly and doing its job. Another layer of MSC, I darken the eyelines and eyelids so we can see them clearly. Then I finally draw on the eyebrow hairs. Add more details and build the colors even more. Using a black watercolor pencil, I darken the pupils and the eye lines. Then I draw on the eyelashes. I dread this part because I'm not used to drawing lashes. I think the lashes turned out alright, now we have to do all that to the other eye. Another layer of MSC and I do some more touch-ups. And finally, we can dot on the eye shines. Then we can spray the face one last time with a generous amount of MSC to seal the new face. What do you think of the new face? I quite like it, and the faces of my last two projects are shiny and I am so glad this one isn't. Like seriously, how could I possibly know MSC would work like this every time? Because sometimes it just throws you off. Moving on to the hair, I got a few options for the color. The first one seems to be the most cartoon accurate, but I don't think I have enough yarn for a full head. The second one is just wrong. The third one, I've never used this color before, so I got plenty of yarn. The color itself is decent, and when I turn it into wefts, they have nice length but feel pretty thin, so let's go with this. Okay, I already prepared the wefts, and let's do the bangs first. Aurora's bangs confuse me because half of the bangs is just curled in. Been there, done that, I know what to do, so here I'm filling and trimming the wefts for that part of the bangs. Now, it's the other half of the bangs that confuses me. I mean, what is that? How the fuck am I supposed to translate that into 3D form? So here I'm just filling that part of the bangs without trimming anything, at least until I got a plan on how to approach it. Then I'm gonna tame the bangs by applying water to the wefts and let them dry. After that, I give them a hot press. Now we can cover the rest of the scalp with the wefts. The hair looks crazy, so let's tame it. Now we can style the hair. I start by curling in half of the bangs with a heated metal chopstick. For the other half of the bangs, I try to style it with heat, but that isn't working. So let's try a different approach that is simpler and makes more sense. I apply watered down glue to that part of the hair and shape it into what I can only describe as a whirl. Then I trim the excess hair. Leave it overnight to let it dry. I think that turned out pretty good. I was actually intimidated by the bangs. Okay, now we can curl and unravel the rest of the hair to give it some texture. I don't like how this looks, let's try it again. Still doesn't look right, let's try it again. Okay, this is starting to piss me off. What the fuck is happening? This isn't my first time styling doll's hair this way. Why can't this look right? Anyway, I end up brushing all the curls. Then I glue more wefts on the nape area because that spot is see-through. The wefts are thin. Then do some brushing to blend the wefts together. Alright, let's try to curl the hair again, but only the bottom section this time. I unravel the curls and it's looking better, but still not quite right. I'm gonna do further styling off camera because this is just getting on my nerves. Before we make the actual armor, we have to make the underlayer for it. I'm thinking a leotard that looks like chainmail, and here I got some stretchy silver fabric that doesn't look like much. But if we layer it with this black mesh material, it looks a little more convincing. Question is, how do we temporarily fuse them together? Let's try something. I apply school glue all over the surface of the stretchy silver fabric, then lay down the mesh fabric on top and let it dry. And use weak glue. You know, the kind that the second it touches water, it gets dissolved. After the glue dried, trim the excess fabric so we can get a panel we can work with. I hemmed one side so we won't have to hem the bottom of the sleeves and the leg holes in the process. Cutting out the pattern pieces is really easy, it's almost like paper. The way I would have aced fabric treatment class. I start by sewing the sleeves to the front piece. I make them raglan because I don't want to do shoulder seams. The glue stabilizes the fabric, and you know what you can do with stable fabric? You can sew it with the machine, which is always a blessing sewing in this scale. Then we can sew the back pieces. Then the neckband to the neckline. It's gonna look like a turtleneck. Then we can sew the side seams together. Trim the excess seam allowance and hem the leg holes. Sew up the butt seams. And then finally the crotch. I try to turn it right side out, but it's too rigid. I have to wash it first to get rid of the glue. Now let's sew the leg pieces. And here's what it looks like. I haven't attached the snaps, but close enough. Welcome back, Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl. Another thing I have to sew is a short skirt out of this interesting hot pink pleated fabric. Let's make it simple. Here's the pattern and we're gonna hem the top and bottom parts. I've never sewn fabric like this before and it's a nightmare. It gets stretched and yanked while under the machine. I even sew it on tissue paper, which helps, but not to the point it's easy to sew. See how one side ended up misaligned, but it turned out fine once I discarded the tissue paper. Now all we have to do is sew up the back seams and add snaps for closure. And we're done with the underlayer. Akin, why did you make her wear a skirt? I thought she was gonna be in full armor. Because she's a princess, okay? Anyway, I also finished styling the hair and made her a headband. Till as old as time. Wait, that's Beauty and the Beast. Wrong song, dude. Which one is the Sleeping Beauty song again? Oh. I know you, I walk with you once upon a dream. Now let's start working on the actual armor. I'll be making the base out of this 2mm craft foam, referencing the Lightful's doll armor making video. I already cut out the front and back pieces and heat them up over a candle to shape them. I need the armor to be removable, so how do we attach the pieces to one another? I bought a magnet sheet which I can cut into pieces that hopefully can be used as closure. I stick the magnet pieces to the foam using contact cement. I think contact cement is the best adhesive for foam, though unfortunately this didn't work. The magnets weren't strong enough to hold the armor pieces together. But then I remembered I have some doll velcros that I never got to use because I use snaps for my doll clothes. The velcro should work for this, so I use it instead. Between the fumes from heating up the foam and the smell of the contact cement, I was dizzy, even though I work right next to an open window. And this is how the closure works. It's fairly simple, but it works. Now we can do more pieces, like the neck piece here that I can stick to the front piece. Then the pauldrons that I can also stick to the front piece so they won't have to be separate pieces. I added some velcro so everything sits nicely, and we're done with the bodies. Moving on to the lower part, it's gonna be 3 pieces. I added the velcros. And this is what it looks like so far. For the arm armor, they're just gonna be simple tubes. Here's what they look like. The empty spaces around the elbows bother me. So I made more pieces to cover them up, and they fit pretty snug too, so that's nice. The elbows can still bend, by the way, in case you're wondering. Moving on to the shoes, I picked these random boots and take out the details with my rotary tool. Now I stick foam pieces to the boots. And we're done forming the armor base. Here's what it looks like. It looks pretty flat because I got plans for the details. But before we get into that, I'm gonna fill the empty spaces in the bottom of the soles with epoxy. Epoxy has weight to it, and I believe that'll help the doll to be able to stand on her own. I bought this tub of foam clay that's specifically for cosplay, and I'm gonna use it to conceal the seams on all the armor pieces that have them. As for the details, I bought the silicone molds in shapes of intricate swirls. The scale should work, and I start filling the shapes I want with the foam clay. This is only the second time I ever work with foam clay. The first time I used the cheap one, you know, the ones for kids, come in small plastic packets in many different colors. I don't really recommend to use that kind because based on my experience, that kind of foam clay was wet and sticky and difficult to work with. The foam clay specifically for cosplay like I'm using right here is more expensive but a lot easier to work with, not sticky at all. In order for foam clay to cure properly, it has to be fully exposed to air. I don't know if it will cure if we just leave it like this, but I found a workaround from this video. The trick is just to put it in the freezer, and since the pieces are small and relatively thin, it shouldn't take long, only about half an hour. That should solidify the foam clay enough so we can pop out the pieces without distorting them, not too much at least. Demold them quickly though, because within like 3 minutes the foam clay will go back to being mushy, and when that happens you have to put it back in the freezer. And then leave them overnight so the pieces can fully cure. Here's what we got. There's no way I could sculpt this myself. God, it's so fucking hard to be smart sometimes. Anyway, let's clean up the edges. Then I start marking placements for the details. Doing it with a pen is a mistake, I'll tell you why later. Then we can stick those details on the armor with contact cement. And here's what it looks like. The details add so much more, right? Can we paint the armor now? Nope, not yet. Because I'm gonna add raised details to mostly the edges using puffy paint. This is my first time using puffy paint and oh my god, it takes forever to dry, like 6 hours or something. That's longer than epoxy. But I still let it dry overnight, just to be safe. And it dried flatter than you applied, so you have to do a second pass. You should not be doing this if you're in a rush. Wait, I almost forgot. The gauntlets. I got a pair of new hands 3D printed. These are actually Iron Man hands because that's the best file I managed to find for the gauntlets. I'm gonna trim some parts because they're kinda too big. From the original hands, I get rid of the fingers, leaving only the wrist joint and enough material so we can merge it with the new hand. I got a piece of wire stuck there before supergluing the two parts together. Then I conceal the gaps with epoxy. Now we can actually start painting the armor pieces, starting with 2 layers of black acrylic paint as primer. We're gonna paint the armor with metallic acrylic paint later, and metallic acrylic paint shows up a lot better on dark surfaces. The armor looks stunning in all black like this, but this is not what we're going for. I had to buy this metallic acrylic set because it has the metallic magenta paint that I need, which I couldn't find in individual tubes. Anyway, let's get into it. Obviously, it needed more than 1 layer of paint to become opaque. I ended up giving all the armor pieces 4 layers of the metallic magenta paint, and here's the color progression. Now I'm gonna paint all the details silver. I only managed to do 2 layers of paint because I am so not used to painting small intricate details. My back and neck hurt from all the hunching. Here I'm dark washing all the armor pieces with diluted black acrylic paint to bring out the details more and scuff the armor so it looks cooler. I go over some spots with the metallic magenta paint again to highlight them. To seal the paint, I applied 3 layers of watered down gloss varnish to all the parts. The armor looks pretty legit if I do say so myself. And here's why you shouldn't use pen to mark the craft foam. Because it shows through all the layers of paint. I don't know how that happened, chemical reaction or something. So use a light colored pencil maybe. For the accessories, I got a sword and a shield 3D printed. The shield is looking a little too plain, so here I'm attempting to sculpt a dragon head, a nod to Maleficent as the shield's centerpiece. That didn't work because who the fuck did I think I was? So let's do an easier route. I cut out a general shape out of the dragon head out of craft foam and super glue it to the shield. Then I add raised details with puffy paint. Now we can finish the sword and the shield the same way we did the armor. For the blade of the sword, I give it 2 coats of gloss varnish without watering it down. I made a craft foam ring and super glue it to the back of the shield so it can be slid on and off around the doll's forearm. And with that we can call it a doll. My collaboration partners are Doll Afterlife, our amazing host, Valkyrie's World, Steffu Doll, me, Doliana, and Rock Puppets. If you happen to watch my video first, please go check out the others as well because I had a blast working alongside these talented doll customizers here on YouTube. So what do you think of my take on Aurora the Sleeping Beauty as a D&D character? Do you like her? Do you not like her? Let me know in the comments down below. I think she turned out pretty great. The face up is good, the hair is good, the armor is the star of the show. Speaking of the armor, that took me 2 weeks from start to finish. It was worth it though cause it looks awesome. This proves that when I don't do body modification, I will spend a lot of time doing something else, and that includes procrastinating. I asked my collaboration partners what D&D role she would be and they said she's either a fighter or a paladin. Steffu Doll said she looks more like a paladin, so I guess she is a paladin, but I'm just gonna let you guys decide. Anyway, this is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. See you next year. Bye!